right, 41. The first thing I generally consider is whether the cause requires the minds of the audience should be excited, for such fiery oratory is not to be exerted on trivial subjects, nor when the minds of men are so afflicted that we can do nothing by eloquence to influence their opinions, lest we be thought to deserve ridicule or dislike, if we either act tragedies about trifles or endeavor to pluck up what cannot be moved. For as the feelings on which we have to work in the minds of the judges, or whoever they may be, before whom we may plead our love, hatred, anger, envy, pity, hope, joy, fear, anxiety, we are sensible that love may be gained if you seem to advocate what is advantageous to the persons before whom you are speaking, or if you appear to exert yourself in behalf of good men, or at least for such as are good and serviceable to them. For the latter case more engages favor, the former the defense of virtue, esteem, and if a hope of future advantage is proposed, it has a greater effect than the mention of past benefits. You must endeavor to show that in the cause which you defend, either your dignity or advantage is concerned, and you should signify that he for whom you solicit their love has referred nothing to his own private benefit, and done nothing at all for his own sake. For dislike is felt for the selfish gains of individuals, while favor is shown to their desires to serve others. But we must take care while we are on this topic not to appear to extol the merit and glory of those whom we would wish to be esteemed for their good deeds too highly, as these qualities are usually the greatest objects of envy. From these considerations, too, we shall learn how to draw hatred on our adversaries and to avert it from ourselves and our friends. The same means are to be used also either to excite or allay anger, for if you exaggerate every fact that is hurtful or disadvantageous to the audience, their hatred is excited. But if anything of the kind is thrown out against men of worth, or against characters on whom no one ought to cast any reflection, or against the public, there is then produced, if not so violent a degree of hatred, at least an unfavorable feeling or displeasure near akin to hatred. Fear is also inculcated, either from people's own dangers or those of the public. Personal fear affects men more deeply, but that which is common to all is to be treated by the orator as having similar influence. 42. Similar, or rather the same, is the case with regard to hope, joy, and anxiety. But I know not whether the feeling of envy is not by far the most violent of all emotions, nor does it require less power to suppress than to excite it. Men envy chiefly their equals or inferiors when they perceive themselves left behind, or are mortified that the others have outstripped them. But there is often a strong unfavorable feeling towards superiors, which is the stronger if they are intolerably arrogant and transgress the fair bounds of common justice through supereminence in dignity or fortune. If such advantages are to be made instruments to kindle dislike, the chief thing to be said is that they are not the acquisitions of virtue, that they have been gained perhaps by vice and crime, and that however honorable or imposing they may appear, no merit was ever carried so high as the insolence of mankind and their contumelious disdain. To ally envy, it may be observed that such advantages have been gained by extreme toil and imminent perils, that they have not been applied to the individual's own private benefit, but that of others, that he himself, if he appear to have gained in any glory, although it might not be undue reward for danger, was not elated with it, but wholly set it aside and undervalued it, and such an effect must by all means be produced, since most men are envious, and it is a most common and prevalent vice, and envy is felt towards all supereminent and flourishing fortune. That the opinion entertained of such characters be lowered, and that their fortune, so excellent in people's imaginations, may appear mingled with labor and trouble. Pity is excited if he who hears can be induced to apply to his own circumstances those unhappy particulars which are lamented in the case of others, particulars which they have either suffered or fear to suffer, and while he looks at another, to glance frequently at himself, thus as all the circumstances incident to human suffering are heard with concern if they are pathetically represented. So virtue in affliction and humiliation is the most powerful of all objects of contemplation. And as that other department of eloquence, which by its recommendation of goodness ought to give the picture of a virtuous man, should be in a gentle and, as I often observed, a submissive strain, so this which is adopted by the orator to effect a change in the minds of audience and to work upon them in every way should be vehement and energetic.